Hello. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing the FTP adapter. It's very similar to the file adapter, and I actually have it in the same application, all the testing that I'm doing for the videos. But in this case, we have a FTP adapter that will go out and get data from the database. And this actually here is another service. It is a service that I created at an earlier time that gets data, and I call it not with a database adapter but with a web service to grab that data. This would also be something that you would consider using OSB for, and that would probably be preferable, in which case you'd use a direct binding up here to call the service that's connected to the OSB. Now, basically, this is a service that gets all of the employees for a particular department that you provide from the test here. And it does a put to the ctemp directory, actually, on my local computer. I have IIS configured and an FTP to this computer. And it does the put here. And you can see that is an FTP adapter up here. And the other project that we have is a FileWatcher. This is a FTP adapter that is doing a get, and it's placing it in this directory here. And then it's archiving the files in the ctemp directory, which is here, obviously, because you're doing FTP, you do not state the C drive, even though it is the C drive. It's basically a virtual directory that you're FTPing to. But when you do process the file, you have to write it to a local drive. And we will see that. We're deleting the files after retrieval. Now, another thing that's rather interesting is that this will alter the behavior of how the data is processed, because we're going to run it first as this with it unchecked, and then later I'll show you how it works with it checked. And basically we just get it and we're transforming it over to a writer. So you can see that that's it. One of the things I had trouble with when I originally started configuring the FTP adapter in WebLogic was that my initial work on the FTP adapter, the FTP put worked just fine, but I hadn't configured all of the necessary requirements for the FTP watcher to work properly. And these are the ones. Default date format needs to be changed to this if you're working on Windows. And I didn't necessarily find this helpful, but I've been using this one, and it seems to work. The host name is obvious. The list parse key should be set to Win. It was set to Unix. The password, and that's why it failed, or it actually didn't run at all. The password is obvious. The port is the default. I didn't have this set, and I had this set, but it was not enough to get it to work, obviously. And the username. And I would create a file with the put in this project, and this project just sat there and it didn't run at all. So once I finally got all of these things properly configured on the FTP adapter in WebLogic, then it worked perfectly well. Okay, here we are in Enterprise Manager, and let me just show you quickly the data that we have. This is the output from the employees table. And you can see that over here I have the department ID, and I'm going to run it with 50 first. You can see that there's quite a few records with 50, and there's quite a few with 80, and we'll run both of those. The first time we're going to check it here, and that's 50, and we run it. Let's see if we can't go out. There's the file, and I have the FileWatch FTP process set for 20 seconds. That seemed to work just fine. And I have it rewriting into the file here, and you can see that these are all the 50 values that we worked with. And then I also have the ctemp red, and if we do send to Notepad, you can see that here we have all of the 50s. Okay, let's quickly go back into JDeveloper, and let's change the watch program so that we have this one. We'll just set it to batches of 1. And I'm going to deploy it. And when this is done, I will run it in Enterprise Manager. Okay, we're back in Enterprise Manager. Let's change this to 80. And that will provide a lot of records. Okay, that worked. You can look at the flow trace here. And you can see that everything worked fine. We can look at the FTP watch here, and you can see that we have the writer working. And you can see these are all the records. But didn't we do it with 80? Looks like I might have to redo all of this. Okay, well, here's the... Oh, there it is. There is the 80. And the file's not there. But you can see now that each one of these is being treated independently. And so that's what the difference is between that one setting that we did. Now I do want to take a look. I hadn't looked at this prior to, but it looks like the instance did not show, or we need to refresh it here. Oh, there. Okay. It hadn't processed properly. That's nice that I don't have to redo the video. And you can see that the payload is just set to 1. So it processes it differently if you have that one value checked. Now that is something to consider, because when you're in JDeveloper, normally you would do maybe a for each or a while or something here to process the data. But if you have that one value checked in the FileWatcher FTP Adapter program, then it handles it independently, and that can be a good thing, or it can be a bad thing if you're wondering why it's processing them all separately and you don't see anything here that would indicate that. So obviously there's having a for each here in the DEPL process gives you a very quick heads up that it's processing each independently. Whereas if it's just processing without it, there's no indicator here why it would process them independently like it is. So you have to know that the FileWatcher FTP adapter is set to manipulate the data each record at a time. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Have a good day.